Welcome traders, I'm Adam Harrison. Just going to have a look at the economic calendar for the week up ahead. So really I'm going to be focusing, there's a lot of sort of high impact news. I think claimant count change could potentially be significant. I think unemployment for the Aussie dollar, all of that stuff is going to be interesting. I think the refinancing rates and monetary policy statement out of the euro is going to be important as well. And of course, all of this sort of dovetails with the ECB press conference, which is happening on Thursday. Now out of the US, we've got core CPI data. So that's going to add a bit of swing and moves on Wednesday. Then we've also got on Thursday, again, we've got retail sales numbers, and again, unemployment claims. So really, those are going to be the things that I think are going to add volatility to it. And let's just kind of have a look at the charts to see which direction they're most likely going to result in over the coming days. So starting off with the VIX, we're still sitting at the low numbers, so not really seeing much. You can see also the wick as well, showing a lot of exhaustion. So the market effectively just stuck near the lows, not much happening there. We have a look at the US dollar, the dollar index, you can see, and it's so funny how sometimes in hindsight, something is an obvious setup. Really just looking at this breakout, show this pullback, and it's also a double bottom in an uptrend, this very strong bullish signal, and then of course it takes off from that side. So this was a particularly strong signal. But again, only necessarily much more obvious in hindsight. Not a bad thing to sort of outline it, just to comment on it, but you can see that we've pushed up through to 105. So this week we saw a stronger US dollar. You can see that weekly as well. We've broken this previous high, so we don't need this anymore. That has very clearly become unnecessary, and you can see we're now back up at these previous levels. So this week I do expect a bit more of a battle for it. It's had 8 bullish weeks in a row, and this is an area of strong resistance. So we'll see how it does. It's also within this area of resistance, and we could see it start to break out and continue up like we saw in most of 2022. We'll see if that's the case. It really has to get past this point, and it could struggle. So we're not there yet. But if we do see a big breakout this week, then the question is, will it find support in this area and a continuation? So I think this week is going to be quite interesting from that perspective in terms of the battle that it's going to have to fight. That then, of course, means for euro dollar, it's sitting at a major level here at 106. Let's go to 106.50, 106.100. This is going to be a level ground for battle as well. So I do expect a little bit of a push. We could see Monday push on and then see changes throughout the rest of the week. And we're still pretty much range bound here. So until we break these lows, we're still technically in an uptrend. So that's why the lows of May and June, the last week of May and the first week, I beg your pardon, of May and June in total actually would be significant, especially the one of May is going to be significant. So I'm going to mark that one over here. That is a level that's 106.35, and so that's going to be significant because that will then potentially change the game from trending up to sideways or into a downtrend, but that is significant. Having a look at sterling as well, so sterling you can see potentially coming back down overall. Slightly stronger trend than the euro, but again, I think 1.24 is going to act as a significant level. So again, there's a little bit further room for these to go. They are starting to become overextended on the daily. So next week, if the market behaves normally or on average, then I expect some form of retracement on the daily there as well next week. Aussie dollar sitting at a key level here, looking as though it wants to continue hitting low. So I do think there's some continuation perhaps in this area before it finds a bit of a floor. Looking at Kiwi dollar. Again, here has tried to come back up. It started to show exhaustion, breaking through this level of support, battling a bit. All of this hints at just further downside based off the price action alone. Dollar yen has managed to, this is very beautiful, breakout, come back, retest, and a very nice strong bullish continuation bar. So all of this, again, hinting at a slightly stronger dollar. And so we'll see if we can get through this level of resistance that's right here, but it doesn't look like there's much to stop it. We can see here dollar Swissy, a little bit overextended to the upside. It's gotten through this area where I said that if it was ultimately going to turn around, that would be the area where it finds it. This is the last kind of line in the sand where it might find some resistance. On the weekly, it is possible. We'll have to see if that's going to be the case, but for the most part, aside from retracements coming this week, the question is, will it have a retracement in the early part of the week and then continue up by the end of the week, or will it push up and then close a little bit lower on the tail end of next week? So dollar CAD already starting to battle a little bit here, but it has broken through. It's a failed breakout or a fake out. My brain actually went and tried to merge those two words, and so we'll see what's going to happen on this side. We've got gold. So, sorry, let's just go have a look at that. Okay, so when I go across to some of the other cross pairs and have a look at those, let's see how the yen crosses are doing. They're still battling with support in this area. You can see the weekly looking a little bit exhausted there. Pound yen battling here as well. Aussie yen also battling in this area. So it's one of those that's in a consolidation, and I would wait for a breakout to the upside or the downside to then determine what is going to happen next. And very quickly having a look at some of the other pairs. So how's Euro Aussie, for example, doing? Also in a bit of a consolidation. You can see that weekly coming back, producing a bullish candle. So break above the high there could produce Euro Aussie trades to the upside. What about Pound Aussie? Similar area for it to potentially turn around in, but the daily itself right now not looking that good. And how are the Aussie pairs anyway? Aussie CAD losing a bit of, still bearish, losing some of its trends. Aussie Swissy not doing anything here at all. Kiwi CAD, Kiwi Swissy, what are they doing? Kiwi CAD looks nice and bearish. Nice little continuation candle there at support. And Kiwi Swissy, yeah, a lot of these nothing so far really jumping out in terms of opportunities there. So again, not seeing too much on the crosses. Let's move on to metals. So gold. Gold's still battling in this area. I was looking for a pullback this week. It has come into an area, but not really seeing that. In fact, the weekly actually still looking, there was a very strong rejection of that. So this is what I was expecting from last week, was if we broke the high, we'd see a continuation to the upside. We did not break the high. In fact, we're still looking a little bit weak. On the daily, we've come back to down towards that 200 moving average. And so at this point, there's no clear trend. This is a wait and see. We're still stuck in this area. So all that's really happened is that instead of breaking out of a kind of a consolidation and the market's deciding what to do, they've sort of come back into that area. Silver took a bit of a hit. You could just see the swings on, the swings on silver are really big, quite wild. So this area here, this large area being a bit of a range. So I think it's best for me to just wait and see what's going to happen on those. Just seeing them, when I look at it on a monthly, it's a bit more range bound. So I want to see how that works out. Natural gas, look at this range that it's been stuck in for a while. Can't quite seem to get out of that. If anything, now it's sort of testing the lows of that, so not looking great at all, just as in there's not much happening there. And then we move on to crude oils. So crude oils had really one of the better weeks, just continued up. So there's been a couple of days at resistance, but overall, I think just aside from any kind of pullbacks into 85 or down towards 83, I think there's some good continuation there. They pretty much have broken through this level of resistance at 82.80, and therefore I think that there's room for it to go to the upside. So I'm just looking for any kind of pullbacks on the daily. Again, even a pullback down towards these highs here. 88 for Brent crude would be a fantastic opportunity if I get a bullish candle that sits up there. So I think crude oil right now is the one top of my list, whereas a lot of the charts, the rest of the charts are offering, and potentially some of those majors where that dollar really is pushing. But that dollar is quite strong at the moment. Right, let's move on to the global indices. So global indices trying to produce a higher low here. We again did not break the high of the weekly candles. There was no follow through. We sort of stuck in this area. You could see plenty of buyers below the low, so we've still got a wick over there. Buyers pushing up, but didn't really produce much, and actually just not showing a lot. So there's buyers below here, but not enough to kind of take it through to the upside. So this is one of those ones where I could see it's trying to form a high low here, but that doesn't actually mean we might not pop down to this level of support before pushing up a little bit higher. We didn't break the high. So the important thing that I need to be looking out for on the weekly chart is a break of the high of the weekly candles to form a swing low. All right, and that could still come at the end of this next week. And again, we've got the NASDAQ just struggling with a bit of resistance here at about sort of 15,800 and trying to produce a higher low here. It is still in an uptrend on the daily, but really want to see this pushing up and getting through there. Again, a lot of that, a weaker dollar would help with that. When you move across and have a look at the mini Russell, you can see that's just a failed move. We've actually broken the low, closed below the low, so this is way more bearish than it should be. And again, I caution whenever you say, whenever I say that this is a bullish thing, I don't want people to think that immediately means we're going to go head into a crash. It really is just looking for what is most likely to happen in the next week. So if we break these lows, there's a potential level of support here. If we break through that, we'll tend to come down to 1825. On the other hand, should we immediately start going up and break the highs here, we're much more likely to hit to the upside. So it is watching those weekly lows and highs that really help with that. The FTSE as well, trying to produce a higher low here, actually not looking that bad, considering it was a lot weaker. We've got that double bottom I spoke about here, but we don't have bullish divergence, which is a big plus. When there's bullish divergence, then it is very highly likely that we're going to see a change in trend. If we break a major key level right now, all that it's really saying to me is that the buyers are trying to keep it up, but they're just not strong enough there's almost not necessarily not enough faith, but not enough people pushing it to the upside. In here, again, the DAX just up and down, sort of range bound and a bit of a consolidation there. The good news being that in theory, if we break out of these consolidation moments, we should have a big move to the upside. So consolidation is another way of seeing a consolidation is a really good chance for a resting period. It isn't doom and gloom. It doesn't necessarily mean the market's going to crash. Should be treated exactly as what it is, which is a consolidation. Okay, so the ASX in Australia, this is a good level for it to find support. We'll see if that's going to be the case, and the Nikkei as well, battling a bit. This has been one of the most bullish ones. As I said last week, I was really hoping for it to come back down on the monthly to do a monthly retracement. But if the weekly is trying to turn around now, and this could actually be what it is, in these cases, we could be seeing that the weekly is trying to turn around. It's not enough, and we're going to see a monthly retracement if that's going to be the case. The game isn't over yet, so it's not looking more and more obvious. I want to see what happens. All right, moving on to individual equities. So Apple had not a great week. Pull back into this area. You can see that weekly candle also not looking good. So to me, I see more of this currently right now as a bit more of a monthly retracement, a continuation of that. Doesn't mean, of course, that we can't find that bullishness from here. It just means that right now it's trying to offset some of the monthly gains that it's had as opposed to weekly gains. Amazon here still looks good. It's going through a sort of a slow walk here that it is on the weekly, but looking good. It's not overextended on the monthly. So to me, Amazon actually has greater potential to the upside because it's just not overextended and technically speaking is not overvalued. Okay, can't say for fundamentals, but I could say that in terms of physical orders going through, it doesn't appear to have peaked in terms of demand at this time. AT&T just wobbling through this area, staying under pressure from all these moving averages. Just a minor little observation, not too significant yet, but I noticed the MACD has just managed to go bullish. It is trending higher, so we could see a bit of a turnaround this week, but I wouldn't I wouldn't bet on that just yet. I would just wait and see how that's going to unfold. ARC Innovation, surprisingly, if there was a bit of a week that wasn't going well for it, you would have thought this would be the one, but it managed to kind of stay where it is. Tread water, battling with 45 as a level, but it managed to stay where it is. We've got Glencore stuck within its range, still pushing back down towards those lows, so not really anything significant, no clues that have come out of that. Tesco trying to push higher, you can see it's producing that swing low there on the daily. We'll see if it can keep going up from there. We've got Amex right down towards the lows here, taking pressure. So this is the monthly as well, putting pressure on that, and we'll see if it can turn from this week. Again, interesting that a lot of charts are sitting at major levels. And then we've got, so Berkshire Hathaway, overall, as I said, not looking too overextended here, but it is just ticking along. And you can see it is a little bit overextended on the monthly. So anywhere here, I'd love for this to either consolidate or pull back down a little bit to offset again a little bit of that monthly overextended price action. Coca-Cola breaking to the downside, starting to come back in towards these lows. So again, it isn't an area we could still find support. We'll see how that goes. And again, because BP and Exxon are, driven by energy. We can see energy's had a relatively good week in terms of crude oils. So that's pushing higher. So that's got some room to go back up towards the old highs there. Exxon will be the same as well. They'll do just fine if crude oil's doing fine. We've got General Motors back down towards the bottom of this range. Doesn't look fantastic, but also doesn't look that terrible. JP Morgan Chase coming back in towards these old highs here. Again, it's a good area for it to turn around in. So they really are testing these levels of support. All right, so Adidas is still stuck within its range, which is a little bit more obvious once I highlight it on the weekly. So again, let's see if we can find some. I don't think it's overextended on the monthly. It's just stalling a bit, but within this area, I would expect if there's a correction, it's just going to be a relatively small one in this area. Meta as well in an uptrend on the daily, but immediately encountering some battles. You can see it sort of sits below that 50-period moving average on the daily. On the weekly, it looks fine, just battling with that. Let's call it 300, nice round number, battling with that level. But again, remember that once it breaks beyond that, it should pick up momentum. And again, here's a good example of one. Absolutely, certainly could really benefit with a monthly correction on that back down towards 250, back down towards the moving averages. So there's a good example of one that I think, compared to say Amazon, where I think this one really could benefit from a big correction to the downside. But a lot of these are already sitting near the lows, and therefore I think their possibility of going to the upside is slightly higher. Morgan Stanley, again, you can see already got some buying coming in here, but just not quite taking off just yet. So just exercising caution. Last week was this attempt across a lot of these to kind of break high, and then it just sort of failed. And now it looks a little bit more dire in terms of this NVIDIA. Okay, so NVIDIA has always been overextended. This now, this so far producing a very bearish look. But here's where it's starting to change on the weekly. On the weekly, we've got, we had failure at this 468 level. We then tried to get through. We've come back down this inside indecision sort of spinning top candle. We've come back down, and we've got a bit of bearish divergence here. So all of this hinting at either a consolidation or a break lower for NVIDIA. So NVIDIA is certainly topping out there, and will that have an impact on the NASDAQ? For sure, a little bit. Here we've got indecision with Netflix. Okay, so it's going largely sideways. PayPal just continually pushing near those lows. We've got that bullish divergence, but we need to hold at this level. So there's quite a few of these where I'd like to see them hold and push a bit higher, and everything is sort of testing the lows. That's fine. It just means we've got this general uncertainty. So typically sort of premature, as I said last week, I was like, the bulls are back because, we looked as though we'd broken free of it. Now it looks as though we're sort of back in it. So it's just more uncertainty. The monthly here as well, Spotify, nice bullish candle here. We have broken higher. We need to just continue that further up. We've got Spider. This is in that downtrend, looking more and more bearish. So to me, this has that potential to come back down towards the bottom of the range, potentially. FedEx, nice uptrend, just needs to come back down. Hopefully it can find support here about that 250 level. It could come back a little bit lower to 230, but 250 looks feasible to me, certainly for that weekly. We had a bit of an attempt here for the buyers to come back in. So again, yeah, there's that possibility it'll come back down to this level and test support there. Tesla, even Tesla is not necessarily immune to this. We could see it's trying to sort of take off in this area, not going anywhere just yet. And within that monthly, looks as though it's really sort of heading into that apex. We'll have to see what ultimately happens. So that Vanguard, any kind of a pullback again towards 394, 400 would be really good for it. But it had started its move to the upside, and I just highlighted this area around 420 as significant. If it's highlighted in red, it's usually a significant resistance at any rate. So we'll have to see if it can manage to push up from there. And Disney, of course, just continuing to break lower. So my expectation for now is that Disney is going to continue to test these lows all the way down. The question is, once it breaks through that, then what is going to happen? And based off of its behavior going all the way back to March 2021, I'm not really certain I see anything that's going to change or turn around at this time, unless they find a way to cut costs or do something that makes it appealable to shareholders. Very quickly having a look at bonds. So they're just, again, always trying to turn around, not finding a lot of love here. Let's look at EURUSD as well. Really desperately trying to find some support in this area. Not really expecting them to head much further down, because this is the most selling they've experienced in many a year. At some point they have to sort of turn around, but we're not seeing any signs of that just this. We're not seeing any signs of that just yet. Cryptos again are still under pressure. So Bitcoin, Ethereum, all of these will be hovering near the lows unless they find something. And you can see for the now, most of the market, I guess the best word I would use is subdued. We've got that dollar strength coming back in. We've got this general bearishness. Now it's interesting because that sort of implies uncertainty, but I'm not really sure where this uncertainty is coming from. Possibly there's something out there where it's being picked up on, but not really getting it. It might be the inverted yields. It might be anything out there that's essentially sort of creating a bit of uncertainty. Not seeing anything at this time. So it doesn't necessarily mean that is going to lead to calamity at all. It just means that is currently what has resulted. What is the next week most likely to do? So there's a few things that I've highlighted here. Again, I'm going to probably keep an eye out for that dollar strength. But there's a fair possibility this week we might get a bit of a reprieve from that, and that everything might find support at those levels. So let's just see how that goes. But I'm going to exercise caution around that until such time as it's then a little bit more clear. Are we going to continue below those levels at these key levels with equities, for example, or are we going to recover from that? Maybe we managed to find a bit of a floor and push back from that. All right, I'm going to leave you with that, but listen, have a great week, and I look forward to chatting to you next week. And yeah, exercise caution and have a good week.